my name is Kish, and today I'm going to be talking about two different exercise programs which could potentially delay the progression of Parkinson's. Parkinson's is debilitating. Over time, as the disease progresses, it leads to a loss of functionality and poor independence. As a result, there's a need to address Parkinson's progression. Unfortunately, the most common treatment available for Parkinson's actually has no effect on disease progression. No matter when an individual starts their medications, they tend to progress at the same rate. Because of this, researchers have set out to explore physical exercise as a way to delay the progression of Parkinson's. They have used animal models to identify that high intensity and sensory exercise may delay the progression of Parkinson's, so naturally this should be tested in humans as well. However, exercise rehabilitation literature on human subjects actually rarely address disease progression. So the effects of high intensity and sensory exercise on Parkinson's progression still needs to be investigated in humans. With 69,000 participants worldwide, rock-steady boxing is the most popular. It improves mobility, gait, and quality of life, and also has varying improvements to motor symptoms. Similarly, PD-SafeX is the most popular sensory program available for Parkinson's. It improves mobility, gait, and motor symptoms by 6 points. Together, both programs may have the potential to delay the progression of Parkinson's, but this has not been assessed as of yet. In order to assess disease progression, it's important to first define what neuroprotection is. So in this hypothetical example, we have time down here and disease severity here. The blue and the green boxes are just two different types of exercise interventions, and the red dotted line just indicates natural progression if people never took part in exercise. Notice that in the top example here, disease severity seems to be hovering around natural progression. However, down here, we can see that right away there's a sharp deviation away from natural progression, which seems to be sustained throughout the study. This indicates that exercise too may have a neuroprotective effect and may actually delay progression. Now keep this example in the back of your mind when we go through my results. The purpose of the study was to investigate the effects of boxing and PD-SafeX on Parkinson's progression. To do this, 66 participants were randomized into either Arm A or Arm B. For the first 10 weeks, participants were either in a boxing or a PD-SafeX program. Next, they went into a no exercise period for 10 weeks where they just maintained normal activities of daily living. Next, they crossed over into an exercise program that was opposite to what they started off with. And finally, they went into another no exercise period again. So together, the study was 40 weeks in length, and individuals were assessed at every 10-week increment. Both intervention groups were matched for duration and for time. The only difference was the type of exercise. Boxing involved whole body circuit training that was high intensity, and PD-SafeX involved sensory attention exercises. This study also had a non-active group where individuals are asked to maintain their normal activities of daily living. The primary outcome measure was disease severity, and it was measured using the Unified Parkinson's Disease Rating Scale by a blinded movement disorders specialist. Secondary outcome measures included gait parameters that were linked to Parkinson's progression, specifically variability of stride velocity, stride length, and stride time. Independent t-tests were conducted to assess if the groups were comparable at pre-assessment. Next, the outcome measures were explored using a mixed model repeated measures ANOVA. It was found that both intervention groups were equivalent for demographic and health-related characteristics. Here's the primary outcome measure. There's time of assessment down here, and we have disease severity over here. Notice right away this red line is a non-active group, which resembles natural progression, and they're getting a little worse over the course of 40 weeks. There is also a significant arm-by-time interaction, which indicates that the interventions seem to be driving some sort of change in disease severity. If we dive a little bit deeper into the results, we can see that in the first 20 weeks, the red dotted line, which is natural progression, is parallel to the green dotted line, which is the boxing group. However, the blue dotted line, which is the PD-SafeX group, seem to be improving. Now, if we go forward another 20 weeks, we can see that the red dotted line, which is natural progression, is getting worse. But now the blue and the green dotted lines are parallel and are improving. Notice that the only difference now is that the green group has received PD-SafeX. So essentially what I'm telling you is that I was able to get people that started around a 30 and I could bring them below natural progression and have them end at a 25 at the end of the 40 weeks. Now this happened early for the blue group that got PD-SafeX earlier on. Notice that this pattern sort of resembles the example that I mentioned at the start of my presentation, whereas the green group sort of looks like natural progression until they receive PD-SafeX. So now let's look at all of the outcome measures together. The top left graph is a primary outcome outcome measure that I just went over. And these three graphs are the secondary outcome measures, which are gait parameters linked to Parkinson's progression. Notice a similar pattern in each of these four graphs. What's really cool about this is that even though the primary outcome measure was conducted by a human, the gait data for these three graphs was collected using a sensor carpet. So even after eliminating human bias, we still have a similar pattern, where one group seems to be improving disease severity and the other group seems to resemble natural progression. Now, sensory exercise does impact disease progression. Maybe this is because it promotes neuroplasticity. It could also be because exercise just naturally stimulates dopamine release, so that in adjunct to medications may have an additive benefit. Or finally, it may just mean that PD-safe can target specific symptoms of Parkinson's. In comparison, boxing resembled natural progression, and this is unlike what we saw with the animal models. This is probably because the exercise used by animal model studies were higher in intensity. However, because boxing is so popular, it was still important to use it in the study. Together, in comparison to boxing, PD-safe may have a neuroprotective effect and may delay the progression of Parkinson's. It's also a valuable adjunct therapy to medications. Thank you for listening.